Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program The Journey Begins Part 14. I am back from my trip to sunny Spain and, well, we've got a lot of things to get through, so we're just going to recap a few of them quickly. The first of which is a mission back to the moon. You see us here blasting off with our Darwin Mark III rocket, and Kerman is at the controls for this one. Our, well, not so new recruit by now, but I think we've pretty fully blooded her into the space program, but I think a solo mission to the moon will round that off nicely. Anyway, we plot our course down into the northwest crater of the moon, a place. Well, I was about to say a place we haven't been before, but then we've only ever been to one other place on the moon, so hardly a surprise now, is it? Anyway, we land uneventfully, apart from an exploding second stage in the background, and oh, doesn't she look happy? Anyway, Kerman gets to collecting the science and planting the flag as per usual, and in honour of my Spanish trip, I would think I'd say Felicidades to Kerman. Anyway, before too long, it's time for Kerdard to make her way home, stopping of course quickly to collect that science from the materials bay, which won't be coming back with us. Now, it's at this time, normally, that I start to say things like, the trip home was uneventful, it went as normal, nothing abnormal happened, but that's not quite true this time. We ditch our service module, we make our way into the atmosphere, and everything's going nice until I approach the ground and realise we're coming down onto quite a steep slope. Anyway, we do stop rolling about eventually, and then it's time to see what science we've gained from this mission. And that is not all. We are going straight back to the moon, this time in our Brunel Mark I launch vehicle in another repeat mission from last time out. We are going to put a relay satellite system, this time into the orbit of the moon. Manning this mission is, of course, Valentina in the command seat, and she's joined by Bargil Kerman and, of course, Johnny Kerman. Now, there's a name you could use to cut diamond. I'm nearly done with these, I promise. Anyway, we get our cargo, well, our payload, I should say, out from underneath the fairing, and we set our course towards the moon, getting ourselves a nice high orbit, just for the ideal height to release those satellites. We release the first of those satellites, and then it's time to decrease our own orbital period and then make our way round the planet just into the right point that we can release that second satellite. The second satellite goes away, we circularise the orbit for that one, and then it's once more round the planet before we get to our final satellite. That one gets detached okay, we circularise that orbit as well, and then it's time to plot our course home, and thankfully this one really does go uneventfully and as per usual, and we've managed to come down on the day side for the second time in a row. I don't know, I must be doing something wrong. We ditch our service module and make our way into the atmosphere, this time coming down over the desert region of Kerbin, and finding ourselves a nice and, above all, flat spot to land in. And that's not all either. After I finished those two missions, I went to check on the space station just to see how the science lab was coming along with its experiments. And, well, it's a good thing I did, because it was very nearly full to brim with science ready for us to transmit back to Kerbin. So we set that transmitting. I check on the power levels just to make sure the transmission isn't draining the batteries too much, but with the new power system we put in there a couple of missions ago, it doesn't even make a scratch on it, which is nice. Yeah, it's been a bit of a science bonanza this episode. I hadn't planned it that way, but I'm certainly not going to complain, and all the science we've accumulated so far gives us a total of just about 1,080 science, so full HD science. We're not going to go for 4K, because we want to spend some of that science right away to get ourselves a new experiment, and we're going to go and play with that experiment right about now. So with that science spent, we found ourselves here on the launch pad with one of our shuttles. Yeah, so we've done one mission each with each of our current main launch vehicles, so a veritable anthology of them today. So I think it's about time we got this in the air. Valentina and Bill along for this one. It's not really an engineering type mission, it's more of a sciencey type mission, but I could have taken, well, you know who, but Bill hasn't had a mission today, so I thought I'd bring him out for this one. Only seemed fair. Not doing a recap for this one, not doing even 4 times time acceleration. I'm going to do this one live commentary style as I'm actually playing it. Obviously, I normally don't do this for the launches, and well, there's a couple of reasons. There's the one I normally give, which is well, you know, you've seen this sort of thing before, even if you haven't seen this exact launch vehicle. Although we haven't seen this exact launch vehicle sort of in a live commentary launch, which is one of the reasons I'm doing that here. But it's the one part of every mission that's pretty much exactly the same. Other missions you might have a bit of novelty. Well, you will have sort of some uniqueness and novelty. You know, we're taking this new part to the space station, or we're going to a planet we haven't seen before. But the launch is always exactly the same. I'm going to throttle down here so we don't go too fast in this thicker lower atmosphere. You know, it's no matter how novel your mission is, it's the launch. It's just the same job. Get up out the atmosphere and be going sideways fast enough that the ground is falling away from you as quickly as you're falling towards it, and that's pretty much the same for every mission. So I don't normally do this, but as I said, I think I decided I'd do it for this one. Having a bit of difficulty turning over. I think the large aerodynamic surfaces on the shuttle are trying to kick us back, to kick our attitude back towards prograde, but seems to be going okay now. How's our apoapsis doing? Getting up to 23,000. Let's start turning over a bit further, towards about 45 degrees there. Lovely. Just gonna throttle up a bit as well as we get as the atmosphere thins out. The other reason I don't normally do these do the launches live commentary style is that well, when you're having to talk and think of things to talk about and fly at the same time, it's mistakes can start to creep in, as you may have noticed on some of the missions on previous episodes during this series. I did get a good bit of advice from one of my subscribers, Ghost, and a comment on one of the previous videos about if you are landing on like the moon or Minmus. Just going to throttle up all the way here. How you can prevent yourself from losing that retrograde marker and everything. So if I remember, I'll probably take that piece of advice next time there's a relevant mission. But yeah, mistakes can and do start to creep in. It's not going to be too much of a problem today because we're well, there's not really that much, not really a fine margin involved at any point. We're not even going to be really circularizing our orbit because I want to push straight on into space high above Kerbal, which is above 250,000 meters. So we will be we'll be doing that instead of doing an ordinary circularization. Where are we? Exit atmosphere in 50 seconds. Let's see if we can make that go a bit faster with the help of 4 times time acceleration whilst we're in this atmosphere. This is a slightly different shuttle to the one we've seen previously. We're out of the atmosphere. Let's where are we? Let's time accelerate a bit further forward, so we're a bit closer to apoapsis. That should do. And then we're just gonna start thrusting forward. As I said, not worrying about circularizing it today. I am going to keep an eye on those fuel levels, though. We just want to pick our periapsis up. Let's see. So let's into the atmosphere. I think that will do. And then we're going to get rid of these sort of booster cum fuel tanks, and then we're going to carry on thrusting and pick our apoapsis up. Periapsis still low in the atmosphere. Nope, there we go. So yes, this is a good little orbit. Should get us to where we want to go. Let's pick it up to... Ooh, press the wrong thing there. Not to worry. Yeah, I don't want to go too much higher than we need to. Let's roll this around and we can have a good proper look at it. Get the solar panels exposed to that bright Kerbal sunlight. So yes, this is a slightly I've slightly revamped the general design of the shuttle. I've moved these canards a bit further backwards down the craft just to make sure that the center of lift is behind the center of mass when we come down for the landing, because that can occasionally prove to be a bit of an issue. But it's a different version. This one we don't have the large cargo bay. We instead have a crew module, and this is going to be the sort of the crew version of our shuttle. We are just going to time accelerate forwards, just gently. Don't go too fast. Yeah, so we've got the crew compartment. We've got our docking module as usual. This is the one it's going to be a crew shuttle in sort of every sense of the word. So if we need to get crew into low Earth orbit, this is going to be our vehicle. Actually, before we go too high, I'm going to stop us there, and I'm going to open up our cargo bay, because the shuttle also does have a small little cargo bay there, just for anything we need for the mission, like in this case. And I'm going to reveal our cargo. It is 2 of these, our brand new science experiments. The no, not that one. The dual technique magnetometer, and I'm just going to take one of the readings from this. So it's near Kerbal. The magnetic field is strong here. It appears to be shielding the area from cosmic rays. Beautiful. We will keep this. This is not one of the standard experiments, not one of the stock experiments you get with KSP. This is part of the Kerbal KSP Interstellar Extended mod. It's one of the main mods on this series. I'm pretty sure I haven't sort of introduced this so far, but if I have, I apologise. But well, this just adds a way of it just adds to the tech tree in a way that means you can get technologies that aren't on the existing tech tree, obviously, but it does it in a way that progresses through sort of like technologies that are available at the moment, through to sort of possible near future technologies, right through to technologies that might not even be possible, but if they are, certainly far off in the future, like warp drive is one of the things that introduces. And I'm not sure if we'll be getting to the warp drive stage, but it just adds some interesting new components and some interesting new gameplay elements that I thought we could have a look at along the way. This particular thing, one of the things you need in Kerbal's KSP Interstellar is to fuel your warp drive is antimatter. And if I just click on this and don't get the crew cabin for a third time, beautiful. If I actually activate it, you'll see antimatter flux, because for the warp drive you need antimatter, and the place to find antimatter is right on the fringes of your planet's magnetosphere. So using this, we can sort of chart the magnetosphere of the planet and then find where the most amount of antimatter particles are to be found, and then later on we can send a collector up to collect them and then use that to fuel the warp drive. But as I said, I'm not sure if we'll be using that during this series, so well, we'll see. Let's just deactivate that. So we've got our reading for this one. Let's just warp forward until we are in space high over Kerbin. Where are we? That will do us. And let's take a reading from our other magnetometer. The magnetic field is much weaker at this altitude, and there are far more cosmic rays. Is this safe? I'm sure it will. You're green anyway. If you start glowing that colour, it's not going to really make much of a difference. We have taken both our readings. We can close that. Now I think I'm going to wait till we get around to the other side of the planet. I'm going to sort of recircularize our orbit, try and take a bit of energy out of the craft before we do our descent. So let's start time warping around there now. I've been giving speaking of that, I've been giving some thought as to exactly what I want to do with this series, because this was just something to kick the channel off with, something to give me some practice at doing this sort of video, just and what have you. But yeah, so it was never intended to sort of be a complete playthrough. So I've been starting to think, well, what do I want to do with this series? Where do I want to take this? What's going to be the end point? And I think as a minimum, I want to get a Kerbal on Juna and get him home safely, or get her on Juna and get her home safely. So yeah, I think that's sort of my bare minimum thing I want from the series. and I think I'm going to work towards that. We have a Juno transfer window coming up in about 100 days game time, I think. So yeah, I'm going to use that sort of as a guideline to sort of something to work towards. It's going to need a bit more technology, obviously, and some new craft and what have you, but yeah, it gives us something to aim for, I think, which is something we've been missing from the series up till this point. Let's just start to bring our orbit down a bit, bring our apoapsis down, I should say. Doesn't have to be perfect. That'll do. I don't want to get us back in the atmosphere. I'm going to try and get us back to the KSC, but that's going to require a deorbit burn a little earlier on in the orbit than this. But yeah, these deorbits with shuttlecraft like this, they tend to be quite long. So I think I am going to leave you here and do this in post commentary. So we make our way round to the other side of the planet, we circularise, and then we start our deorbit burn here, before making our way into the atmosphere. Now, I misjudged the deorbit burn. I think I burnt slightly too late and didn't lower the periapsis low enough. So, yeah, you see me here sort of going in at a 90-degree angle of attack to try and burn off as much speed as possible, but we still go flying past the KSC. So, not to worry, though, because we don't go too far past, and we manage to get ourselves turned round and get those engines fired up with the fuel we have remaining and make our way back towards the KSC. Just as we're passing by the KSC island, our fuel runs out, but by this point we've got more than enough height and therefore more than enough energy to glide down safely back to the KSC before we make a good-ish landing on the runway. Our first landing back at the KSC this series. So we've tested out a new science experiment and we've given our slightly reconfigured shuttle a little bit of a shakedown, and yeah, it's performing a lot better. We also have some provisional goals for the series now, but we'll have to work towards those in future episodes. So until then, thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you next time.